Now, we've just finished recording our tech sales top performer series for the Sell Like You podcast. And something that is come up in every single conversation is around being technical in sales, in tech sales. And there are two sides to it that I just want to highlight based on my experience. And the first one is that often the technical element, you need to understand enough to have a conversation. And often when people come into the industry, they think that they need to know absolutely everything before they can pick up the phone, before they can start building relationships and having great conversations. Now, in my opinion, you need to know enough to be able to uncover an opportunity and be able to have a conversation, and then know at which point to bring in relevant people, because there's a reason why tech people don't sell. There's a reason why they stay on the tools. And then on the other side of it is that you need to know enough so that you can have that conversation. But if you do know too much, then you run the risk of making it a very technical conversation rather than leading it down the road of being focused more so on outcomes. So when I'm looking at providing enablement or education around tech, we look at, as an overview, what does the solution or the product or service do? We're then looking at the types of problems or that are overcome with this technology or the outcomes that are being generated, and ideally share some examples around what we have seen in the industry. So that gives us a really strong snapshot of the capabilities of the technology. Now, you need to then understand it so you can explain it, whether it's be a CFO, a CEO, a CIO, a CISO, an IT manager, an engineer. Each of these levels, you need to have the right conversations. And what you tend to find is further down that rung, that ladder, is you tend to get more technical the lower down the ladder you get. Now, often if we look at those C-levels or those manager influencer of decision makers, they have come those positions often in general. And so when we're looking at it from that perspective, they've come up with that technical overview or technical understanding, but now they're driven by strategic elements within the business, driven by what are they trying to achieve? What do they need to have in place? And so if you start by talking very technically about the bits and bytes and speeds and feeds and all of these new nuances within your technology, you're not going to connect with them on that level. But if I started talking about strategic levels to the engineers, they may not know where that strategic alignment sits within the business, and they want to talk about what they feel comfortable with. And so we're always meeting people where they are. And so for you, if you're new in tech, if you are learning new technologies, then getting across them as quickly as possible is going to be key to allow you to identify opportunities. Don't lie. Don't ever fake what you know. Try and bluff your way through an answer. Always be upfront and honest, and that will stand you in good stead and build a great relationship moving forward. Now, if you're in a reseller integrator level, then what you'll tend to find is you'll need to be across a number of different technologies, and at a high level, what do they do? If you're working within the vendor level, then you are going to be more specific around the understanding, because you can only talk about your product or your service. And yes, I'm sure you have one. I don't think there's any products out there or vendors out there that have only one element of their offering. They usually will have one core element, and then they'll have a couple of options around it. So getting across that is going to be easier than trying to get across 6 or 7 or more different technologies. From the distributor level, they're going to be very similar within that integrator partnership level, because they're often dealing with a handful of vendors, but often they'll have a pool of vendors that the distributor will then manage. So it just gives you a bit of an idea in terms of if you're looking to cross-pollinate within the channel, if you're looking to get in. Same thing if we align then this same conversation to a SaaS platform. You're looking at a specific use case or outcome that's being solved through the SaaS platform or the provider, and therefore we're driving very specific conversations. Now, that makes your go-to-market so much easier because you're focusing on one specific use case or industry, or a suite of industries or a suite of use cases, which you can easily get your head around. When it comes to SaaS platforms, you've got to integrate the user functionality, whereas when we look at our vendor-led or our cybersecurity products and services, although yes, people within the teams need to be able to manage them, they're usually more technical and they usually require technical capability to install. Whereas from SaaS platforms, you are often dealing with people that teams have got to use them who are not technical, and it may be consumers that are using them who are not technical. So again, it lends itself to having a different conversation. But never be put off by new technology. If you need to learn new technology, make sure that you align the learning elements to how it's going to empower you and impact your conversations and your go-to-market. And if it doesn't, then ask further questions. When I was learning new technologies, I would spend hours on YouTube, and I'd be in Google, and I'd be in the partner portals looking for the information that I needed, and also looking at competitive overviews because they may be able to describe it better than the products that I already aligned with. And so by aligning myself with knowledge and empowering myself with knowledge, I was able to go to market, use what I knew, but not have to just stay in one lane of conversation. I could broaden that conversation. And one of the key things there was bringing in the right messaging and the right stories to bring the examples to life, because that's what allowed me to connect and build stronger rapport with the prospects that I was working with.